Hi everyone, welcome. This is Sam Gabriel, and in today's video we're going to talk about how to authenticate into Vault using Azure Active Directory. So let's get started. So what you see on the screen here, let me make it a little bit bigger for you, is my setup basically. So I have Azure, and in Azure I'm only using the Active Directory service from Azure, and also have AWS. Inside of AWS, this is where I have my Vault setup. So I've got two clusters of Vault. I have a primary cluster and I have a disaster recovery cluster. Disaster recovery replication occurs between the two clusters. I have 6 EC2 instances, and Vault is installed on all 6 instances. The integrated storage backend is the backend of choice that I'm using the Raft protocol. And as you might know, the disaster recovery cluster is a standby cluster that does not serve any traffic. Replication happens all the time, but you cannot really access it and retrieve secrets from it. In front of those 6 nodes or 6 EC2 instances, I have a public-facing load balancer, and for my configuration, it's a pass-through load balancer, meaning that I have certificates on all of these nodes, and I'm terminating TLS directly on the Vault nodes. That is a good practice for Vault. And I am exposing this to the internet because I need to have Azure Active Directory talk to that load balancer to be able to talk to the Vault cluster. And this is not necessarily a good thing to expose Vault out to the internet, but in this case, because I don't have any sort of connection or direct connection between the two clouds, I'm relying on the internet, I would have to do it this way. If you had something like an on-prem deployment of Vault, that on-prem deployment can talk to AWS and Azure over direct links for the two clouds, then that's a different story. But in this case, I'm exposing it, but taking some precautions here. You can do things like only whitelist the Active Directory IPs to access this load balancer. Same thing with any users that need to access this load balancer out from the internet. You can whitelist those IPs as well. Another option obviously is to use VPN, but at that point you're not going to be able to use Azure Active Directory. So for the purposes of this demo, we wanted to show how you can authenticate those human users into Vault using Azure Active Directory. So the way this works and the way the flow we have here is that the human user here, will come in through the internet and access, through the load balancer, access Vault's UI or through the CLI, and request to authenticate into Vault using the OIDC authentication method tied or configured with Azure Active Directory. Their Vault will reach out to Azure Active Directory to authenticate the user. Once the user gets authenticated, a redirect happens and it takes us back to the public-facing load balancer, which directs us back to the Vault cluster, and we're authenticated. Just a couple of notes here. This load balancer will see all 6 nodes, but it's going to see the DR cluster as unhealthy, which is okay. Once you promote the DR cluster to a primary, because maybe your primary failed, then the load balancer will see them as healthy and can route your traffic to the appropriate nodes. The other piece here is the internal facing load balancer. This internal load balancer can be used for applications that are within the AWS cloud. You can talk directly to it, and then we can route the traffic that way. So that's also available. All right, so the next step is to take a look at the demo. So let's do that right now. And I have my Vault cluster here. You see it has a valid certificate in front of it. And you can see that DNS is pointing to that load balancer that I just showed, the public-facing load balancer. And now I'm on this page. I'm going to authenticate first via the UI, and then I'm going to do the same thing by using the CLI. Okay, so first thing, let's use the OIDC authentication method and sign in with OIDC provider. You can see it's going to start a Google Chrome browser window, and I'm already inside of Vault. And I have the ability to see the KV secrets engine here that I have with a couple of secrets. So you can see the secret test. Key is foo, the value is bar. Same thing with hello. The other piece I wanted to show you is that once I'm authenticated, you can see my user here is OIDC dash, and then my email, my username here. There is a policy that allowed me to view these secrets. I call it OIDC policy, and we'll see what it looks like in just a second. Okay, so let's take a look at how this will work with the CLI. So let me bring my window over here. So I can log out here. Let's go back here. And a couple of things to do here. Because I'm using certificates on Vault, I need to specify this command, run this command, which basically tells it's an environment variable to show to grab the CA cert and put it in an environment variable, and then use this Vault login command to log into Vault. So what that will do, it's going to launch a browser window again, authenticate me, and now I can go back to my CLI. As you can see, once again, I am inside of Vault, and I have a policy called OIDC in addition to the default policy associated with the token I got back. So if I want to let's clear that for a second, and if I want to do a Vault KV get KV test, that same secret I saw earlier, you can see the result. So I have that ability. Perfect. So that concludes the demo. Basically, we're able to grab the secret from Vault. We're able to authenticate using Azure AD. So let me walk you through the config really quickly. The first piece is to configure the Azure side of things. So the first thing you want to do is create a register an application. So if you're inside of your Azure AD, you can go into app registrations, register a new app, or just take a look at the one I already created. So key things to look for: the client ID we're going to use in the configuration of Vault, so we've got to grab that. The redirects or redirect URIs, you use one here for local, for testing and so on, but the other one is for production. So the thing here to note is that you need to put the DNS name or fully qualified domain name that points to that load balancer in here. And that's pretty much it on this side of things. There's also some permissions in the API that you need to add. Group member.read all, that needs to be added. And also we need to create a secret, a client secret. So you create a new client secret, and we're going to need the value here for the Vault configuration. One last piece is actually we want to grab the endpoint. So if you go to Overview, Endpoints, and this is the one we care about, Open ID Connect metadata document, and you want to grab this portion here. So really the significant part is the tenant ID here that you can see. But when you grab this, make sure you don't grab the trailing / at the end. So that pretty much sums up the piece on Azure. There is very good documentation here on the Vault site walking you through everything I just mentioned. So the Azure piece is here. And let's now move on to the Vault configuration. So let me bring up my window again. Let's make this bigger. First thing you want to do is enable the OIDC auth method. After that, you want to write a policy. So this policy is the OIDC policy. Let's take a look at what that looks like. It's right here. So it's simple policy. I'm allowing everything within the KV mount. List, create, read, update, delete. That's why we're able to see everything there. After that, we want to configure the OIDC method. So this is the command you'd run to do that. You give it a role. The client secret shows here. The client ID is put here. And this is the endpoint that we talked about earlier. So you can see that the tenant is what's needed here. The second piece is to create a role inside the method. So this is how it's done. Here's my example. Just copy everything here, and the only difference is this piece here where you put the host name or the fully qualified domain name right here. And that's it. Basically, again, you export the Vault CA cert as an environment variable, and you log in with this method. Now there is a piece at the end here that you can take a look at in the documentation as well, which talks about connecting your AD group with the Vault external group. I'm not covering this here in this video demo, but you can take a look at that as well. So hopefully this has been helpful for you to understand how we can use Azure AD as our authentication method into Vault for users, human users, to come in and consume Vault secrets that way. And this is really using the OIDC auth method inside of Vault. Thank you for watching.